With Thursday's November 6th, 2:30 Historic Preservation Board meeting, call to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please. Excuse me, let's all stand first for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Member Hurley?
Here.
Member Young? Here. Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Here.
Member Dashiell?
Here.
Chair Lowry?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, first we have the approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look at it? Number one, and number two, does anybody wish to add any items to the agenda?
I would like to add, for the discussion, the fees for demolition of historic and contributing structures.
So, what was that again? The
The fees for the demolition.
fees. Okay, thank you.
And then an update from the Gulf Beaches Museum.
Okay, we'll call Ms. Dashiell's 5B. I'm going to slide one in as 5C since we always like to wind up with your updates. Okay, so I would like to add a discussion or open for discussion about the potential of moving a historic structure on 24th Avenue to replace the Shuffleboard Clubhouse. There's been some recent information on that. So I'd like to discuss that, and then we'll make that 5C, and then 5D will be an update.
Chair,
Yes,
if I may, can I add public services update as well?
sure. We'll make that E, public service. Anything else? Okay, does anybody have a motion on the approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Approved.
Member Dashiell?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. We don't have a big audience out here today, but this is an opportunity for any audience members to make a comment about anything they would like to make a comment on, limited to city business, and for 3 minutes. If you're here to make a comment on a particular action item or something else is on the agenda, you can hold that back until that actual item comes up. So does anybody have an audience comment, a general comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward.
Swearing in.
Oh, yes. Does anybody have any comments potentially for any action items later on?
I have
Right.
no cards.
If you intend to provide testimony for any of the action items, this would be the time to be sworn.
But does that, Chloe, does that apply to any of our staff people too?
Yes.
Okay, then go ahead and let's swear in anybody who might testify.
Anybody who will be testifying today, please stand, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the information or factual representation that you are about to give is truthful? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we go to heading 3, approval of minutes from the October 2nd, 2025 meeting. Has anyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes from that time frame and have any comments or motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 2nd, 2025.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Member Dashiell?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next, we are going to action item 4A, which is review and approval of the 2026 meeting dates. Lynn?
Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Rossetti. I am a contract planner for historic preservation for the city.
Lynn, one moment. It's not for your case yet. I think we're just looking at the
Sorry, Lynn.
the meeting dates for 2026. Did anybody
Yes.
have any conflicts or?
I thought Lynn was going to present that to us.
No.
Okay, all right, fine. No. Thank you, Kristen. Okay, I think everyone's pulled it up and looked at the calendar for potential dates. As you can see, they're all the first week of July, the first Thursday of every month, other than, I think, January, where we've got it on January 8th because of the holiday. Does anyone have any objection with those dates or have any conflicts they'd like to point out at this point?
I will not be available on January 8th.
Okay. Since that's just,
But that's just once.
yes, that's coming up soon. Does anybody else think they have a conflict for January 8th?
No.
Okay, so we should be able to have a quorum anyway. All right, then you're excused. All right, you're welcome. Okay, anybody else have any conflicts?
July, the 2nd.
Okay,
I'm just thinking that that is a holiday weekend,
Yeah, that's-
and people might want to stretch that out to make it a 4-day.
yeah, that frequently is a problem. So if we were to move that to the next July, that would be July 9th. Does the city have any conflicts with that as far as you would know, Ms. Coleman?
Not that I'm aware of, but I will look to Ginny on that one.
Okay, does it certainly make sense, at least at this point, to tentatively approve this with a change of date of July 9th, if that makes sense to the rest of the board? Does everybody agree with that? That we'll do that? So can we go ahead and make that change, and then if we have a conflict, we'll just bring that back up?
Can do.
All right, so
Sure.
I would suggest then, as far as, I would make a motion to go ahead and approve the meeting dates for 2026, with the exception that the July 2nd date be changed to July 9th. Anybody want to second that?
I would second that.
All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next is 4B, which is, I'm listening to myself over here.
We're having technical difficulties.
Maybe the volume can be muted.
She just happened to get it turned on. She got it.
All right. Not that I don't mind listening to myself again, but I'm kidding. 4B, action items, which is certificate of appropriateness for the restoration of 3401 Casablanca Avenue, which is case number, or restoration number 25126.
Thank you. Lynn Rossetti, contract planner for the city of St. Pete Beach. And this property is located at 3401 Casablanca Avenue. Earlier this spring, you took a look at this property where it had its porch area badly damaged, and they're in the process, they asked for COA to restore that. And that's in the process right now. Now they've come back and they are looking at redoing the windows because those windows leak and they are problematic and deteriorating. You know, the material is actually deteriorating. And they are asking to go with the color black for the window frames. And just as a side note, when I saw this was going to be a case that I was going to be looking at, I went and I drove around some of the municipalities, including St. Pete Beach, but also the city of St. Petersburg, for example, and Gulfport, to take a look at what their mission/Mediterranean revivals look like with respect to windows and window colors. Window colors, you know, mostly for the framing, and you know, some are white, some are black, some are different colors, nothing extravagant, you know, like circus or anything like that. But, you know, black is frequently used rather than white. So I really didn't think that it was a particular problem. This property was included in the city's first historic survey that was undertaken in the mid-1980s. And 3401 Casablanca was locally designated a historic landmark in 1996. Unfortunately, the city was not a CLG at the time, so once the city became a CLG in about 2005, then that property had to be redesignated, as several others did as well. It is surrounded by other residentials. It is directly across the street from the Don Cesar, and in fact, this was a house that Thomas Rowe built when the researchers couple of years back were taking a look at and surveying the Don Cesar and Bella Vista neighborhoods. They determined that this particular house is likely eligible for a listing on the National Register of Historic Places. So it is a significant building, and I wanted to be careful as I looked at this request for COA to be sure that I thought that it wasn't going to hinder anything that way or interfere with its status as a historic structure. And looking at other properties around the area, I think that the color black is appropriate and acceptable. The let's just take let's take a look at the PowerPoint. Okay. So they're seeking a COA for appropriateness to replace the exterior windows on the locally designated structure at 3401 Casablanca. Formerly in 1920, as I already have brought up, they did receive a COA and FEMA variance for window replacement, stucco work, and other repairs and upgrades totaling approximately $90,000. This was a former owner, as you know, and I think that that work has all been done, and quite appropriately. Now the outdoor screen patio is being replaced, and the current work to replace the exterior windows is being sought. This is an older historic picture of the house on the left side, and then this is a current photo of the house as it exists today. And in the back, some of the windows are black. You can see the way the old porch area used to look, and it's under construction now when you look at the current one. Just a few more pictures of the property. Staff supports the request for the certificate of appropriateness to replace the deteriorating and leaking window frames with new black window frames throughout the structure, and feels that it's an appropriate choice for this request. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed certificate of appropriateness. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, thank you. I believe the applicant is
Question or
here.
comment, Lynn. If we approve this for the black windows and down the line when the owner decides that they do or don't want to apply for the designation on the National Register, if this choice affects that approval for the National Register, is there any recourse on us for saying, yes, you can do it, and we still consider it a historic structure, and then they get declined for some reason on the National Register?
Some of the houses that I looked at in St. Pete were part of a National Register Historic District. So, I don't know that the National Register actually disapproves that. What would happen if there was some question about the coloring? That would come from the state prior to it being transmitted up to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So,
Right, so I'm not referring to its impact on the historic district. I'm talking about its potential impact on a future application for local or national historic designation individually on that property. If this
Correct.
decision hinders that award.
There are others that I've seen that I know are on the National Register that have changed the colors.
Also, you showed an original photo where it had black windows too, right?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that.
I think so.
And
They
Not
have
original,
some
but
in the
Some
back.
of the windows across the back are black.
no. There's the first set of photographs she showed had a old picture
Yeah.
next to a current picture. And I believe the comment was they had black windows, but I can't imagine that that would be a stickler. That seems so minor compared to what's going on.
Well,
Windows that were stained
yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tell.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I just don't see where that would be a real problem for anybody. But that's just my opinion. But I think Lynn did an excellent job in finding other similar homes from that same time period that clearly did have black windows. So at first I was looking at those photographs. I go, wow, I didn't realize this house looked like this. And then I realized they were different houses. So
And a lot of them have black,
this is really great. Yeah.
a lot of them also have that black grill work
Yeah.
on the windows.
And it's a beautiful house, and I really appreciate what you're doing to make it what it is today. And you've done an excellent job, and it's a great addition to the community. So, does anybody else have any questions for anybody about this?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. I'll make a motion for certificate of appropriateness for the replacement of exterior windows on the locally designated structure at 3401 Casablanca Avenue, which is case number 25126.
I'll second that.
All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Member Young,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith,
Yes.
Member Daschle,
Yes.
Member Hurley,
Yes.
Chair Lowry,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, very good. Okay, now we go to 4C, which is certificate of appropriateness for demolition, case number, 25134, which is the residence at 2107 Passagrille Way. Mr. Martinez?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members, Gil Martinez, Senior Planner, Community Development. Before you today is a request for certificate of appropriateness for demolition for the property located at 2107 Passagrille Way, case number 25134. The applicant, as stated in the application and in the report, is Fabian Rangel for Hillcrest Contracting, LLC for Keith and Brittany Goan, but I was just informed that there has been a change, and now the applicant is Juan Morajan. I'm not sure if he is in the room today.
Yes.
But, okay, in case any questions come up.
Okay.
The property is at 2107 Passagrille Way, is a one-story frame vernacular residence built circa 1945 and identified as a contributing resource in the Passagrille Historic District. It reflects the modest mid-century coastal character typical of the area. Features are stated right here. Rectangular plan, gable asphalt roof, partial original 3/1 wood sash windows, and an enclosed porch. A garage, a one-story connected by a breezeway consistent with the home's historic style. The condition, it was severely damaged by hurricanes, and FEMA's valuations declined it from $120,899.24 to $76,206 in 2025. Repairs estimated at 84% of depreciated value, indicating a substantial damage. While demolition would remove a contributing resource, staff recognizes the need to balance preservation goals with the structure's conditions and environmental risks. Here are some images of the structure. These are the considerations under Section 28.11 of the Land Development Code, that we need to consider the historical or architectural significance, the importance of the building of the character to the district, the difficulty or impossibility of reproducing such a building, whether the building is one of the last remaining examples of its type, whether the building is capable of earning a reasonable economic return on its value. Staff's findings: the circa 1945 frame vernacular residence at 2107 Passagrille Way contributes to the Passagrille Historic District, but has sustained substantial hurricane damage. Restoration is economically and practically unfeasible due to its conditions, flood zone constraints, and high rehabilitation costs. While a rare surviving example of its type, Staff finds that the reasonable measures cannot preserve the structure, supporting the applicant's decision to demolish. Recommended motion to approve case number 25134 for demolition of the contributing structures at 2107 Passigrille Way without stay on demolition. If there's any questions or comments, I'll be glad to take
Yeah,
them
I
as
do.
well as
See
the
if I
applicant
can-
is here.
Sorry. Let me see if I can find it. You had it on, can you go scroll back a few slides? It really has to do with the question of, before the photos, yeah, let's see. Well, it's on the, oh, here you go, for the FEMA evaluation, this is a question I have in general, not just for this
Okay.
home. But I see FEMA valued it at $120,000 in 2024. That would, I assume, be pre-storm?
That's correct.
Okay, and then they evaluated at $76,000, that would be post-storm, I would assume, right?
2025, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
as I said, it's 2024, 2025. And so I guess my question is, when we, and this has nothing to do with the demolition aspect of it, just for, like I say, my edification. If we're using a 50% rule in a non-historic house, are we going from the FEMA evaluation before it was damaged or after it was damaged? I mean, that seems kind of, if they're saying the house is worth $50,000 or less because it's been damaged, I don't know if you know the answer. That's the first time I've seen where they've done evaluation 2 years in a row when 1 year was pre-storm and 1 year was post-storm.
I think as a rule of thumb, we've been using the 2024 valuations because the storms did happen in 2024.
I would assume so, but I just, and I understand how it's relevant to, whether or not fixing it up, is worthwhile to do. But I just wanted, it's the first time I've seen that. I just wondered if there was any guidance as to what FEMA, if now people come in and they're saying, and FEMA suddenly using the 2025. Ms. Canary, do you know the answer to that, I guess?
Hi. Laura Canary, Community Development Director. So yes, 2024, because we're going by the date of the event.
Okay.
So, but of course, it created a lot of confusion once the 2025 letters were put out, because as you can imagine, even up until the storms, people weren't even really aware that the letters were on the property card, right?
Right.
So yes, 2024 for anything. Now, if there was an event, heaven forbid, that occurred tomorrow, we would be subject to looking at the 2025 for the damages associated and the improvements moving forward that occurred based on the event that would happen tomorrow.
Thank you so much. That clarifies that. I appreciate that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Martinez?
I just have a question. It's more of a technicality. So for the application that the homeowner filled out, the address that was provided is not a residential address, it's a business address, and I'm not sure if that's permissible or not.
As far as the address goes, we go and just verify what's on Property Appraiser. Being that it is the mailing address, it is the correct contact information and the owner information. But I don't know if legal has any opinion on that as well.
Well, I noticed, and I apologize, I didn't get the full name. Yes, sir, would you come forward? And a couple things, because you came in a little bit late, I think the clerk has to swear you in. Okay, you just have to raise your hand.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the information or factual representation you're about to give is truthful? Thank you.
Okay, come forward, please, and just state your name and address for the record.
Juan Modejon, regarding 2107 Passigrille. I'm sorry, I'm new to all this. First time I've been here, or any meeting for that matter. The valuations, I just want to also add to that. Since receiving more information on what we needed to provide, I have ordered a home inspection and also a mold test as well. So there is live mold in this property. There's a lot more damage that we found after the fact that is not addressed on even the previous application. I don't know if you guys want me to go into details on that, or just to let you know, I could drop off the inspection report and the mold examination as well.
Okay, let me tell you how this kind of plays, all right? It's good. And
That'd be
could you spell
fantastic.
your last name for us?
Morejon.
Okay. To get a certificate of appropriateness for a demolition, you have to come through us on a contributing or old historic kind of house like that, all right? But with that being said, we can't stop it, all right? The law says if the property owner wants to demolish a house, they can demolish a house. The only thing we can do is delay your demolition by 30 days if it's a contributing structure being over 50 years old, which your structure is, or if it's been historically designated, which I'm not sure, I don't believe it has.
No, sir.
If it had been, we can delay your demolition by 90 days, and during those timeframes, we can work on you and encourage you to build a historic type of structure.
Understood.
Okay? So that's really the whole thing here. So you almost don't have to even justify why you want to demolish it. I appreciate the fact that you've done a good job in showing the damage. Of course, you're not the first home we've had this with, and telling us about the mold up, problems as well. So at the end of this, when we vote, you're going to get we can't stop it. Okay, not that we need to, especially in a situation like this. But with that being said, one of the reasons I wanted you to come up here is to ask you, have you got new plans for a new structure yet?
I hadn't even started on the plans.
Okay, so this is the encouraging part, okay? I'm going to ask you, or the board would ask you, when you start putting your plans together, that it would be, I won't say advisable, it would be nice if you would talk some to the staff people here to get an understanding, because you're building a home in a historic district, and we want to try to encourage homes to be built in the architectural aesthetic to be similar to the old neighborhood, We can't necessarily force people to do that, but we want to encourage that, especially if you know the area and know.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's why we wanted this property.
Excellent.
So-
Well, we got a lot of people that say we love Pasquarello and they build a brand new, totally modern looking place.
That's not what we're after either, but I appreciate you letting me know. We did interview one architectural firm, didn't really love the feedback that we got from them, so we're going to interview 2 more.
Okay,
And see
excellent.
if we can find a good match for us and for the property.
All right, well, I just wanted to, this is sometimes people already have their plans drawn up, and
Right.
so if you haven't yet, please utilize the resources we have if you can. I think people will be very agreeable to
Okay.
give you information. Anybody else have any questions for this gentleman? Okay.
I believe the name on the application, the last name, could you spell your last name again, please?
Morejon, Morejon.
And you're the owner of the property?
So Keith Goen and I own the property. You probably saw Keith Goen and Brittany
Yes.
are out of the country right now. So we had to sign a special affidavit for me to join today.
Okay, so you're co-owner, I guess you're
Co-owner.
co-owner. And the address that they provided, the 3705 North Himes Avenue, is not a residential?
That's what we use as a business address. That's Keith's law firm. So we use that for a lot of our mailing address, just to make sure that we don't lose anything.
And that's okay. That it's-
Acceptable.
Yes, because the line where it says property address and legal description, that's where the address of the property to
that they
be.
purchased?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to put on the record that staff does kind of review it. We look at the property appraiser, make sure names, addresses, mailing address, everything kind of matches up as well.
So then for this application, should it have the additional owner's name on that application, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, we're going again by what the property appraiser's records hold. But we do have a certified agent authorization for this gentleman.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Other questions, but I do have a comment regarding the application where it says specifically the trees will not be removed, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, I don't think we have any
There's-
tree that,
Well, there are palms
Oh, yeah.
along the seawall, I believe, but, just in general, a lot of homes are coming down, and the big, beautiful trees are coming right down with them.
yeah.
And
So thank you.
just to spin off that for a moment, on that subject, that might be something we want to bring up at a future meeting, because a lot of the homes that have been demolished, it looks like they've knocked all the trees down, but they haven't necessarily, but they've knocked some trees down. And so I had a question for staff, and Mr. Mills gave me some information, but I hadn't quite followed up on it, about homes that are demolished, and if they come in and knock all the trees down, is there a record of the trees that were present, number one, and is there a record of the age or the maturity of the trees, so we're not getting 5 30-foot palms replaced with 5 2-foot trees that take 20 years to look the same. So, and that might be something we want to, just as a board, want to deal with as far as landscaping in the future, because obviously we've had so many demolitions since the storm, and you obviously recognize too that some of these look pretty barren.
Our
So that
neighborhood-
makes-
Our neighborhood is looking very barren.
Yeah, so for a future meeting, and maybe we can, at the end here, I'll suggest, in fact, I'll do it right now, that we could, for the next meeting, perhaps.
Chair and board members, Gil Martinez once again. Indeed, this is a request for a certificate of appropriateness for demolition for the property located at 103 24th Ave. Property owners are Michael and Pezza. They are requesting a certificate of appropriateness for demolition. Case number 25135. These are some images of the property dating back to 1940, all the way to current photos of 2025. The property, the structure is circa 1940, one-story colonial revival style residence and a detached garage. They're both contributing structures within the district, reflecting Paso Grille's mid-20th century coastal cottage character. The owner proposes to demolish the primary residence due to flood vulnerability while retaining the detached garage, which will be converted to a flood-compliant parking or storage area under an approved variance, case number 25096. The proposed elevated replacement dwelling was reviewed under Historic Preservation Board case number 25039 with prior board comments incorporated. The owners have explored relocation options for the existing home without success. Due to the request for a certificate of demolition, the applicant will need to formally withdraw case number 25081 for local historic designation. These are the LDC considerations for demolition permits under section 2811. You need to consider the historic or architectural significance of the building, the importance of the building to the character of the district, the difficulty or impossibility of reproducing such a building because of its design, texture, material, details, or unique location, whether the building is one of the last remaining examples of its kind in the neighborhood or city, whether reasonable measures can be taken to save the building, whether the building is capable of earning a reasonable economic return on its value, or whether the perpetration of the building, considering its physical condition, its location, and the anticipated expense of rehabilitation, would not be economically feasible. Staff findings. The applicant requests to demolish the contributing circa 1940 colonial revival style residence and construct an elevated single-family home due to flood vulnerability. The detached garage will be retained and converted to a flood-compliant parking or storage area under an approved variance, previously approved variance. The replacement dwelling reviewed under HPB Design Review Case 25039 incorporates prior board feedback. The applicant has pursued but not secured relocation of the existing structure. Staff presents this information for the board's consideration in evaluating the balance between historic preservation and resiliency objectives. Recommended motion, a motion to approve case number 25135 for demolition of a contributing structure at 103 24th Ave without a stay on demolition. And I'm here to answer any questions or take any comments, any feedback. I believe the applicant may be here as well.
So there is a pending application for local historic designation?
That is correct.
It hasn't come to us yet, 'cause I don't remember seeing this.
No, if I can, and Mr. Pezza can confirm some of this, and this is part of the discussion I want to have later on about moving a house.
Okay.
So, just so people are aware, I've had contact with these folks for numbers of months, and they've been very, very generous in suggesting that this house, which was not damaged by the flood, I mean, it never got into the house, that they would be willing to donate it to move to some location. And so, and we can talk about that more later, but in the interim, because it has to be a historic structure designated historically to be moved, they filled out a designation to have the home historically, application to have the home historically designated. And I spoke to Mr. Berry that if in fact it worked out that the structure could be moved, can we hear both of those certificates at the same time? And he said yes. All right. So we held off on doing the historic designation because we didn't know what was going to be happening with the house. And there had been a couple citizens on Pascagoula whose homes were, older homes were significantly damaged or destroyed by the hurricane that had interest in moving that house. Those did not come to fruition, but a lot of work was done on those and a lot of time went by. And now that the city has made the move to actually demolish the Shuffleboard Clubhouse, there's a movement, and Commissioner Maldonado involved in it. It was in front of it was brought up to the City Commission just last Monday, the potential of moving this home to that location for the Shuffleboard Clubhouse, which we'll talk about later. But the question I have, this popped up that I have for you, the city attorney, is do they have to pull away or remove their designation or application, for historic designation to get a demolition permit? Because, because I think where we're at, as I spoke before about demolition permit, and Mr. Pezek can add to some of this if he wants, I'm just trying to move things along, is that by the time they actually demolish this house and try to start on their new structure, which we've seen, we did a design review on the home before, then we should be able to have made a decision and potentially moved the house before the demolition obviously occurs. And so time is of the essence, but the staff has been working on it. I think as we speak, there's, things going on. And so I just want to make sure that we can issue this demolition permit, and then if we determine it can be moved, that we can then get it historically designated and do the moving permit without having jeopardized that by granting the certificate of appropriateness. Obviously, we can't move it if it's been demolished, so that's not really the
We can't
problem.
move it if it's been demolished, and we can't move it if it's not a local historic designation.
Right, but that can be done at the same time. We can have it, the paperwork's been filed, we can get it locally designated and do a certificate to have it moved at the same time, so we don't have to wait 30 days between each one. And so the way that would work essentially is we would be able to hopefully have that done within the next 6 weeks or whatever. I don't know, we might have to have a special meeting up for us to do that so we don't lose. Because the Pezes, as I said, have been very generous. They probably aren't going to start construction until the beginning of the year, so that gives us some time frame there. So there's some little wiggle room. I don't want to put them in a position where they have to delay what they want to do because they've been very nice so far.
But in the event they could
Not so
move
far.
it, is the application for local historic designation in a state that it can be on the December meeting agenda, or?
Well, I don't know. I think, what do we have to have, like 10 days beforehand?
For the agenda for December,
Yes.
let me check on.
And this is a new wrinkle to me. I didn't, of the staff requesting they have to withdraw the
Well,
historic
and I can
designation.
answer that because I'm the one who put it in the PowerPoint. And I am requesting that just from, one, I would like to talk to the legal about that, but two, in our software, I have open cases. So if a home is demolished, and I would follow it through because I personally do the demo permits as well, and I approve those, just so I don't have any cases open. And it's trying to close that. So if we're following through with a demo, and there is the question of, can the Pezes continue that application that they submitted in May, if it's going to be designated and then relocated to another location, if the city is maintaining the responsibility, should the city do it? We haven't even gotten into that conversation.
Right.
So I think it's more just from our standpoint, where I think the Pezes have been through every board by now at this point, and for multiple different things. If they don't want to continue with that, and I know this came up on Monday at the commission meeting, but that was something new going on this path that we're on. If you're going for the demolition, then you're probably not going to designate it.
Okay, well, see, I understand what you're saying, but I have had conversations with the Pezes, okay? And I know the timeframes that are associated with it.
Okay.
So there is time that,
Would he like to come up and put that on?
yes, we can do
Okay.
that. But
Okay.
I just want to, so you understand.
Well, I'm not privy to that information.
No,
I'm
I
looking at it from our staff, city standpoint.
No, I understand that, but.
Okay.
And from the side of demolition, if we say, yes, you can demolish it today, that doesn't mean you have to demolish it.
Right,
You
right.
decide not to.
Right.
But at least you have that green card when you're ready to
No,
make that
but-
choice. Yeah.
Of course not, and Mr., I'm sure he recognizes that. The potential snafu that I don't want to happen is if we issue the demolition permit, which we should be able to do because it's at his discretion whether he's going to utilize it or not, and then we say, okay, we need to get it historically designated to move, and the city says, oh, well, you did a demolition permit, so you had to remove the historic designation. And then we got to start all over again, and it adds time to what they want to do. So I guess the answer would be, I know we do this all the time, where we make decisions subject to information we get back from staff, and so, and Mr. Pezza can talk about this and what his feelings are about it, but like I said, it's the first time I've seen where there's a request to remove the historic designation, because I firmly believe they would love to have the house moved and not be demolished, but they don't want to wait forever for that to happen. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. So I'm hopeful from what's said at the meeting on Monday that there's a fire that's been lit and we're going to get some decisions on some of these things really quick. And later in the afternoon, when we discuss that, I will bring up more information for the board so they get a better idea of what's going on. But with that being said, Mr. Pezza, do you have anything you want to say or about this issue?
Not really. That's exactly the way we're looking at it, right? So, we love the house. When the storm came through, I was there and saw the water coming up and made a decision not to lift it. Let's take it down, right? But from the start, we had interested parties that wanted to take the house and move it. So we said, that would be awesome. And we really wanted it to go to where the shuttleboard court was, because now it's always going to be in Paso Grill. So that was our big reason why going for the historic designation. Then when those kind of fell through, we're just, we're probably about 60 days behind schedule right now, what we had planned. Our building permits, I'm assuming are going to be approved pretty quick here, because we put them in August 26th or something like that, so I'm assuming we're pretty close to that. But that's the whole thing. We have no problem with it. We'll do whatever it takes, but we don't, like you're saying, Bill, we don't want this to drag on for, 2, 3, 4 months, something like that. So if we can get it done quickly, we'd love to be part of it and, donate it to the city.
And I would point out, just because it has some relevance to what we were talking about, when it was first brought up, and I never talked to anybody on the board about it because it was never, there's sunshine rules and things of that nature, and you're my neighbor, so, so when we first talked about it, I had mentioned it to some of staff and about the shuffleboard courthouse, clubhouse, I just want to call it the clubhouse, and there wasn't so much interest at that point, but that was way back in like March or April when there was so much stuff going on. And at that time, we had gone from where we were going to demolish the clubhouse, which we signed a demolition permit in January, to re-looking at the clubhouse and determining it could be saved. And so we were on that path of fixing the clubhouse up and not demolishing it. And that's when we started, other citizens there started talking about potentially moving your house to their location where their damaged houses were on Paso Grill. Well, those kind of fell through recently, and then just in the last month, when the city got all the estimates to rebuild the clubhouse, they were so high, the city and the city commission decided we want to go back to demolishing the clubhouse. And that's why this popped up again, because your house is still there. It hasn't been demolished. Now we know the clubhouse is going to be demolished. Is this something we can do? So that, is part of the reason why the timing is the way it is. So I guess I would say we're kind of back to that original issue. I don't want, I can say this. Okay, one thing and I mentioned this to you earlier, one thing we can do, which is well within our rights, is grant the demolition permit with a 30-day stay. And within that 30 days, the city ought to be able to find out whether we're going to be able to move, and the community, this could be a joint operation, okay? Whether in the next 30 days we can get that moved. My understanding is you don't plan a demolition in 30 days.
Right.
You're probably
At
talking
this
about
point right now,
mid-December or
yeah.
something, right?
We have not applied for the demo permit. We've talked to Duke.
Yeah.
They've given us a date of like December 1st, but my wife and I have been talking that, we're willing to push that back. So
Okay.
we don't want to go with the permit until we know exactly where we're
Well,
at with it.
so why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and talk about, well, because since we have to make a decision on this, we have to, essentially, we do have to grant the demolition permit, but do it with a 30-day stay, which only means that you get the paperwork in
Yeah.
30 days. And that ought to give us the breathing room to find out where we're going on
Yeah,
this.
we're
And if it-
fine with that.
And if it
yeah.
works, and if we can do it, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't, at least
We would like to donate it, so, that would be our first choice for sure, so.
Well, and truly with Duke Energy, whether you're moving it or demoing it, they need to do their thing.
yeah, he understands
Right,
that, right.
they will. But they have the December 1st date on it. We would be willing to push that back, because we're still living in the house. We've got we've got a lot of stuff that's been taken out already. We're getting ready, but we've got an apartment down in St. Pete, so, but we're still living at the house day to day, so. And our plan was to live there until December 1st. So even if Duke came and took the power out, the meter out, the house is still standing.
Yeah.
Right, so that's not a problem.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
does that make sense? All right.
Thank you.
Anybody have any more questions for anything on this?
We do need to have a motion.
Pardon me?
We do need to have a motion.
Yes, I know.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant a certificate of appropriateness for demolition number 251135.
No, hold on.
Too many ones.
Yeah, too many ones. 25135.
25135 at 103 24th Avenue with a 30-day stay.
I'll second that motion. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith,
Yes.
Member Daschle,
Yes.
Member Hurley,
Yes.
Member Young,
Yes.
Chair Lowry,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Okay, now we are on to section 5, discussion items. And that is 5A, is design review on 2808 Passagarrow Way.
That is correct. Good afternoon, everyone. Kristen Coman, Planning Manager here for the City Community Development. Today we have a design review before you at 2808 Passagarrow Way, case number 25132. Sean Rooney for Rooney Design Group for Mark and Lori Sullivan. It's a design review for a new house medium structure located at 2808 Passagarrow Way. This board has seen the certificate of appropriateness and approved the demo for demolition on June 5th of 2025. And this is the proposed site plan. It fronts on Passagarrow Way. It also has a front on Sunset Way, which we would consider on the planning end of it in the land development code a through lot. They are looking to have the entrance off of Passagarrow Way. In the prior dwelling that was located there, the entrance and the access was off of Sunset Way. So I just wanted to pull that out for you. This is the proposed front and rear elevations of the home. This is the north and south side elevations. And I also just threw in there our floor plans because I know we have in the past had a couple questions on those. So with our planning consultant, Tara Salamari, she did have some design comments. From elevations, the structure appears visually distinct between the ground floor and upper levels, both of which contain similar features that contrast with the garage floor front facade. The shake upper story projection is similar in color and texture to the garage door beneath, but the southern side of the structure does not maintain that consistency. The applicant should demonstrate how the visual continuity standard of LDC Code Section 20.21 is met. And the applicant should describe and show which of the private frontages, porch, or stoop are included and reference dimensions as required by the Land Development Code. And then also a comment about landscaping materials and future renderings to show that the minimum frontage landscaping standards are being met. It's my understanding, staff has been in contact with the designer, and he is going to address those. From the zoning side, again, this is a double frontage lot. It's considered a through lot containing 2 front yards and 2 side yards. While it does meet the required setbacks based on that determination, the applicant should be aware that there are limitations imposed by a double frontages, such as fence height limitations, visual encroachment standards for future access established at the frontage along Sunset Way that do not apply to a regular interior lot or lots that abut an alleyway. Landscaping requirements of the Land Development Code apply to the Sunset Way frontage as well as the Paso Grow Way frontage, and that while establishing a driveway access from Paso Grow Way, which is a much higher volume roadway than Sunset Way at this location, and again, while such access is not currently prohibited, the applicant should address why the access location was modified. And if I may, I would just like to get some testimony from the designer with regards to if any of the palms would be removed along that way as well. I didn't see anything on the site plan, but again, we are kind to our trees, so I just would like some additional testimony on that. So with that, the board may make comments that assist to ensure compatibility of the structure within the district, as well as this is a single-family use, so there are no form or mass limitations other than those required under the design regulations.
Okay. Is that you, sir? You want to take a big drink of water and come on up, all right?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Sean Roney with Roney Design Group. We're down Central Avenue in St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah, just to kind of go through the list here starting with the...
Kristen, yes, thank you. I was going to ask you to go back to those, right? Thank you.
Yeah, starting from the staff comments. So number one, so the section 20.21 describes screening of elevated buildings. And the design, we've created a projecting front entry structure at the ground level to have the appearance that the house was constructed at natural grade, as stated in the code section. So we opted for this method to eliminate the need for a large exterior staircase that would have an appearance of an elevated building. And so secondly, we designed a carport with the garage doors recessed to allow for parking at the ground level. That's due in part to the minimal setbacks for the house medium. So those are kind of my comments on number one. And I don't know if you want me to stop at each one and have you have feedback on those, or
I have a couple questions
Sure.
just on what you said. So, because it's hard to tell from this drawing, are the garage doors like recessed back in there a little bit? Because you mentioned carport.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so we have a covered area in front of the garage doors there. You kind of see on the far left image there. So
Oh, yes.
those dashed X's there, that's the garage doors. So that'll allow for
Drawing, it's
just since we're so close to the
Right.
front, to allow for car parking out front, and then the entry's on the right hand side there.
And then where the entry is, I know that obviously you're allowed to have a foyer or whatever on the ground floor level, which you've done there, right?
Correct.
The
Yeah.
entrance.
That's correct. Yeah, the building code allows you to have, I believe it's a 299 square foot maximum, just for building access only, stairwells, elevators.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, a lot of homes used to be built that way, but a
Right.
lot aren't nowadays. And I
Right.
think the interior stairs are so much better than
Right.
putting them on the outside. So I applaud you on that little.
Appreciate
design.
that. Yeah, that's something that we picked up years ago that we just weren't a fan of and also it takes up a lot of real estate to add these large staircases and ends up pushing the house farther back, ends up taking up more room in the rear. So then you're inevitably having to put stairs on the inside anyway. So it saves the client a little bit of money and also has an aesthetic appearance to, have the ground floor entry again. So that's kind of why we did that entrance that way, to kind of follow what the intent of the screening is for that section there. So.
Okay, and do you know, Kristen, do you know whether or not, when, I guess Tara made some comments that are on here on the design, whether this gentleman was just explaining the design area did, or did you modify the design to answer her questions?
No, we have done, we just received the comments a few days ago.
I got you, okay.
So we have not made any revisions to the plans.
Okay,
So that's kind of what we're, assume here today, to gather
Okay.
comments and make revisions, and then from there, those will reflect on the permit.
gotcha,
submittal.
okay. So what about the comment in that first bullet point about the shake upper story projection is similar in color and texture to the garage door beneath, but the southern side of the structure does not maintain that consistency?
Right, yeah, so it was a little confusing to me because the southern side is the side of the house. So I guess I would need a little bit more explanation on,
Well, I assume the northern side wouldn't either, would it?
well, correct, they're both north and south are the side, so I'm not really sure if I 100% understand what
Maybe
that
she's
comment.
Referring to the front facade, but on the south side of the house,
Okay,
left of that shake component,
okay.
Is that
maybe.
distinctively different? It's hard to tell on some of these because of the size of them.
Right, so on the sides, we have the horizontal lap siding, and then the front is the shake to kind of break up the rhythm of the flat material of that. And then we also have some panels that are around the windows to give it some distinctive design elements as well, so that we're not just looking at all horizontal siding on the front.
Well, I guess, yes, I guess the question would be not so much what your front looks like there, but the sides, I guess the northern, southern exposures of the house. I'm not saying they have to be, but they aren't the same visual of the siding that's on the front. Is that fair to say? No.
Yeah, I could see where, yeah, and so I guess what I would say to that is that, you know, the setbacks are 5 feet to the property line, and then therefore the neighboring properties would be 5 feet. So to have ability from a pedestrian standpoint to view that, you know, would be very difficult in my opinion, so.
Unless the neighbor tears their house down for 3 years.
Well, right, and that's.
Which it does happen.
Yeah, and that's completely up to their own time schedules and whatnot. But so if you notice, I mean, we do have the horizontal siding that wraps around, and for a cost standpoint, and just having that shake siding is a lot more expensive than the horizontal siding, and for it to be a non-street facing facade. In our opinion, we don't feel it's necessary to carry that shake around. And if that is the intent of what they are explaining in this comment, I'd like to maybe discuss that with that person who did the review to see if that's the intent.
On the other side of it, there's no requirement you put shake on the front, so you could make it just like the side and save more money that way. But
Right,
but
exactly.
we don't want you to do that.
Right,
okay? So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we went through a deliberate design process with the homeowners to come up with different iterations, and this is kind of a lot due in part to the input from them as far as what they wanted. And so a lot of the times that when we have, you know, these front entries as well to, you know, projections, those are usually carry different material. So we see a lot of that pattern along Paso Royal as well, especially with the different levels. So we felt it was appropriate to add that feature as well, but certainly open for discussion if there's a better solution.
And can you tell me since you're looking at the front and rear elevations here, on the front elevation, I'm going to call them those kind of eyebrows that are above the windows.
Right.
How far do those project out?
Those usually no more than 3 feet that project out.
And are those the same on the second, or I guess I'm going to call it the second floor, the third floor, and call the ground floor the first floor? But is that the same depth they come out?
Yeah, so on the level above that's just your general roof overhang. And what you're seeing is a louvered Bahama shutter in a different color there that's directly over the windows.
Oh, okay, I couldn't quite make that out, but I see what you're saying now, I think.
And again, just to kind of
Okay.
break up the flat facade
Gotcha.
there.
All right. Well, will you go back to the comments, please, Kristen? And anybody else have questions on the first bullet point here?
Just, there's not a lot of green space out front. So as far as the screening with landscaping, I'm not sure how that's going to be masked or screened at all from the sidewalk side.
And I think that is both on the design aspect that Tara had, as well as the zoning aspect that staff
Yeah,
had.
that's kind of like bullet point 3 here.
Yeah,
Right.
as well
In a moment, so.
both sides, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a landscape plan submitted. I don't know if that was included in this presentation or not, but we did, see, on either side of the driveway, we've put the requirements for the shade trees and the understory trees and the hedges and mulch areas. That shows clearly on the landscape plan that we submitted.
And of course, there's always the visual of hands around necks whenever we talk about driveways on Pasquarel Way.
Yeah, but can we go,
I try to keep my hands in my pockets.
can we go to the
Site plan?
zone requirements or something, where there were some things?
For the
Yeah, I think they're on here, yeah, I think they go, where they talked about, where you talked about on the rear entrance, how it might be difficult with fencing and things of that nature. Yes, right here, this comments on zoning. So I'm going to make the big assumption that the reason you want a front entrance is so you can have a pool in the backyard,
That's exactly correct.
of
Yeah.
course, and that you don't want to drive your car through a pool, so.
Right. Or put the pool in the front.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I don't know the answer to this, but the thing that I'm concerned about, and I'm sure this is what the staff had mentioned, is whether you'll get the privacy you think you want around a pool, because this is a through, is that fair to say? Yes, because this is a
Correct.
through lot.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, I don't know exactly, but, most people want a privacy pool, fence around their pool to some extent. I don't know if you'll be able to get that. I don't know if you've explored that or not, but.
Yeah, I believe there was some comments with the zoning staff when we were talking to them on the planning, and they had mentioned to us that of the fence height requirements as it gets towards the rear of the property, closer to the street, there's I believe it's a 4-foot fence in the 10-foot area from the street. And then after that, it can go to 6, I believe, but I'd have to double check from that. But the way we feel is that Sunset is more secluded than Paso Grill with the pedestrian and car traffic there, and the road noise. Those are just individuals pulling down their street going to their home. It's not a main drag there. So with the road noise and whatnot is kind of in the pedestrian sidewalk there. I don't believe there's any sidewalks on Sunset Way, so that would be eliminated from consideration on, it was kind of one of the main areas that we decided to.
Well, a lot of people walk it, but there's not a sidewalk.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the main reason for that, to flip that around. And then we also are planning on doing landscaping in the rear. I think it's one of the comments that indicates that we are required to do landscaping in the rear, same as we would be doing in the front, because they're both, it's a through lot, so they're both kind of facing the street, so.
Well, let me ask you, I don't know if you know the answer to this, Kristen, but the way this is designed with the pool and the pool surround, or the patio around it, does it, and the front yard with having, a double wide driveway that goes up to that, are they going to have enough green space in the front or back to fulfill the landscaping requirements, if you know?
I was trying to see if I could find the landscape plan, which I haven't personally looked at that as of yet. But I think in the back, along the frontage along Sunset Way, most definitely, that can be met. The applicant is correct in the fact that your maximum height in that area, up to the 10 feet coming to the east, is a maximum height of 4 feet, and then they can bump that up, and then it would have to go back down as you come to Paso Grill Way with another max height of 4 feet. But he seems pretty comfortable that that is plenty of height to secure the yard. And just getting back to the landscaping, it does, to me, look a little tight here, being that they have a walkway, again, coming from, the sidewalk around Paso Grill Way to the front entry, as well as the garage, or the driveway to the garages, but that shouldn't exceed 20 feet. But I think they could possibly make that work.
Well, and because this is just a design review, you know, we're
Right.
just spitballing here stuff. Is that, I guess there hasn't been a actual determination by staff specifically that landscaping is a problem, but I guess I'm asking, we're assured that if there is, they have to bend on that situation, that we don't.
Correct. If they do not meet the requirements, then the permit does not get issued until we resolve it.
Okay.
But I would like some information on the palms along the right-of-way. If
Yeah, you know, I rode by there
removed.
today, and I know the house has been demolished, but I forgot to count trees, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question that we get a lot with our clients is, are we responsible for the trees in the right-of-way? You know, is that our responsibility? And so as far as anything on the property, you know, I haven't been out to the site, but if they are going to remove any trees, or if they have removed any trees, that's been done with the demolition permit and whatever tree removal permits that they were needed to occur, and make way for the new landscaping that we would need to be putting in. So as far as all the trees in the right-of-way, they're I think that's what you're referring
Yes,
to, right? Yeah, I
correct.
mean,
See what's going to have to be removed to accommodate that new curb cut and driveway.
Correct.
Right.
yeah, I don't believe that there's any trees. There may be one tree, looks like there's a 14-inch tree that I'm looking at for my
I'll give you-
landscape plan, but, you know, again, I don't know
Yeah, well, I
what
don't
the
know
responsibilities are with the.
And I don't know
with the-
specifically either, but I would, you know, when we talked about maybe next meeting, talking about that kind of stuff, because just so you're aware too, you maybe already, you know, when they widened the street about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, or not, they didn't really widen it, but they dug it all up and did a
Right.
bunch of work and stuff. You know, Paso Girl was noted for having these Washingtonian
Right.
palms that lined Paso Girl Way.
Right.
Which it's hard to line them if everyone's decided to put a curb cut there.
Right.
And so there was a lot of money spent in replacing those trees. Of course, they could only replace them about half the height, so they're growing into that what it is. But, you know, obviously we're sensitive that people put in curb cuts and we take out the trees we just put in a little while ago, that probably if it isn't required, that the property owner probably should be required to replace those trees somewhere else in the right of way, but, you know.
Right.
I just mentioned that, but.
And I'd like to just add that there are 2 trees that look like they're kind of new that were planted, and then there's actually a third that abuts this property and then the property just south of it.
Right. Yeah, there's, at least from what I can tell from our surveyor doing his tree mapping, that there's essentially 2 trees that are basically in line with the side property lines, and then one in the middle that looks like it could be in conflict with the driveway there. So again, you know, we're certainly have that conversation to see who's responsible for that, and I'm sure the owners would be more than happy to put trees there if that's required, you know, so, or move it, you know, those are, I'm not an arborist, but I know palms are relatively easy to move as opposed to shade trees, so,
I think it's more about the historic aesthetic and the way that the Paso Girl Way line has always looked versus, you know, a shade tree per se.
No, right, I mean, I don't think we can tell people well, I know we can't tell the people, at least not yet, that you can't have a driveway because you're gonna take a tree out, okay?
Right.
So that, but we do wanna try to maintain as much as we can that kind of, you know, column of trees as you go down, and, you know, like I said, if a 60-foot tree gets taken down and a 10-foot tree gets put up there, it's kind of, doesn't do much, you know, so, not that you could replace a 60-foot tree probably, but, all right. I think we've had some discussion about it. Anybody have any more questions or any more comments on this? Okay, I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
and provided.
appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're in discussion item 5B, which would be fees for demolition.
So I obviously watched the commission meeting the other night, and there were obviously some things that were brought up in regards to creating or generating additional funds for the city. and some of which, is of concern, just being in a historic community and then also being in an area that I see our businesses working really hard to maintain, the flow of traffic and foot traffic, and then to add in additional fees or costs to people to come into our community obviously is a concern. So it kind of got my wheels turning. So I believe the fee for the demolition of historic and/or contributing structures, if I'm not mistaken, is $100, if that's
So
accurate.
to come before this board is a $50 fee, and that is one flat rate to get a certificate of appropriateness. For a demolition permit for the building side, for the building permit itself, is approximately $100, maybe $104. That does not include any fees on the zoning and planning side for historical review. So we make sure if they're coming in for a demo, we are checking to see if it's contributing, if it has to come here, which is that $50 fee, as well as our zoning fees as well. We don't have any. It's all encompassed in there. So you're looking at, if it was a contributing structure, about $154 total to remove.
So as we're looking at the cost, obviously, of people coming in, spending the money for demolition, spending the money to build these homes to the maximum height, width, density, I feel as though a better way perhaps to raise money, and I understand that we would have to go in and see how can we, I guess, reassign funds once they've gone into a particular department or something like that, but maybe to raise that fee. So if someone comes in and buys a historic or a contributing structure with the intention of demolition, they're not coming in buying a million plus $2 million property to demolish without having financial means to be able to do as such. So I feel like at $100 or $150, it's honestly almost laughable, not to mention all of the work that Kristen and Brandon and Lynn and everybody does to make sure that everything kind of rolls out. So I would say that it would need to be probably $1,000, to be honest. And I don't think that's an absurd amount of money to ask someone that's building a $2 million to $3 million home, coming in, buying a piece of property that they're just demolishing, especially as we're looking at kind of the way that things are going. I mean, we see Paso Grill, which thankfully is historic. Lynn and everyone's been working super hard to get other communities within our city deemed historic. This is not going to stop. This wave has started, and so how can we maximize, instead of penalizing people that want to visit our city and support our businesses and support who we are as a community, why don't we say, okay, if you want to join our community, you have to pay this price point because this is what is going to help us stay alive and stay afloat.
I think they're making it up on the construction side. When a new construction permit is being issued, those fees are considerably higher.
I'm no expert on the building side of it, but I do think that new homes could be a set rate, and then renovations, and it might be better if I come back to you with these answers if I don't know.
Yes.
Because I don't want to put on there, but I can look into some additional information. I know if it's renovations, it's a different price than if it's a new home. So I can get some
One
information.
thing that would be of interest is how long has this fee been where it is? It's been like this for the
Okay.
last 20 years or 25 or 30 years?
I think we have,
And so, because obviously after the storm, there's a lot of need for, the city to be able to raise some monies. And I remember
And-
Dash has a good point about $100 is almost negligible nowadays, especially with the prices that they're paying for some of these homes. Good news is none of you guys have to worry about it. That's, you're beyond that. But,
Well, some of the people who are pulling the demo permits aren't necessarily the people who may in the future buy the lot and build the new home.
Well,
They may be pulling a demo permit because their house is further deteriorating day by day, and they're paying taxes on an improved property, and they can't decide what to do, or an estate can't decide what to do, so they take it down to minimize their
Right, but
risk
the-
and their carrying costs.
there's a devil's advocate aspect to that if you're a homeowner that's had your home for 50 years and it got damaged by the storm and you want to knock it down to sell the lot, then is that within the spirit of what you're kind of talking about, okay? Because I understand what you're talking about. People are coming in and just saying, well, I'm going to buy this house because I'm going to call it a knockdown, and then I'm going to build whatever I want kind of thing. That's kind of a different scenario. But I would, let's bring it up for, add it to next month's agenda. If you could find out some of the information about other fees and how long they've been around, and whether or not, because the whole city, and I know Ms. Canary wants to say something in a minute, but citywide, they may be looking at fees on everything. I don't know. So that may kind of already be in the works. Ms. Canary?
Hi, thank you, sir. Laura Canary, Community Development Director. Yes, we're in the process of doing an operating fee study across the board, as well as looking at the enterprise fees for those enterprises, looking at everything from a cost recovery standpoint, because one thing that we do know, even in looking at some of those initial numbers, when we look at ourselves in comparison to what we would consider comparable communities, some of our fee structure is just not aligned with what it should be. So we're looking at that across the board. That's number one. Number two, to your point, yes, with regard to an elevation or a new build, the fee structure looks much different. So they do end up essentially paying more when it comes to the permit side versus if you were just doing a remodel or, if you were doing mitigation. The other thing that I think is important to note that with the fee structure, one of the things, again, this study was already underway before any of the Senate Bill 180 stuff came into play, but it's just something that we also have to be very mindful of because as you can imagine, SB 180 without, being an attorney or putting on a legal hat, it pretty much prohibits you from doing anything that would make development more difficult. And as you can imagine, sometimes they look at, increasing a fee structure as one way to kind of impede development or redevelopment in a different way. So as we've been doing the fee studies, we've been also working very closely with the city attorney just to make sure that we're aligned, that even if we want to change some of these, we have to be dotting our I's and crossing our T's to make sure that it's the appropriate time, because if the SB 180 does come into play, then we're going to need to wait till 2027 to actually implement those fee changes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's very informative. And I think, obviously, you being present and you hearing what we're talking about, these are fees we'd like to have looked at, obviously. So maybe you can just give us some of that general information. Shouldn't be long, but that's a good point. All right. Anybody else have any comments on that at this stage? So otherwise, we'll bring it up for next month. And then we have 5C, which was what I brought up about moving the historic house. And no surprise, that's the house we just talked about. You've seen pictures of it if you aren't familiar with it already. I've given kind of some of the background on that. One of the things, well, first off, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to any of you about it because of sunshine laws. I think I've mentioned, this home and the people are willing to have it donated. I would ask you all for the next meeting perhaps to go look at the house maybe and go look at the lot. I mean, where the Shuffleboard Clubhouse is. Like I said, there's been a change in that the city has passed a resolution to demolish the clubhouse. That's going to happen. I think this house is essentially 40 feet by 40 feet with a 10-foot sunroom on the side, which I think was a slightly later addition to the home. I know we approximated it as a 1940 build. I know it was built earlier than that. I think, yeah, and I'm not sure exactly where that comes from, but that could be accurate. But I have done a little bit of research, and I know a lot of it from my neighbor, Bob Moore, who's your neighbor, who used to own that house himself years ago. And a mayor of Paster Grill lived in there, whose name was John Deacon, and he was absolutely the mayor in the mid-30s and late 30s. So he was living in that house before 1940. So clearly it was there. And his wife was one of the first presidents of the Women's Club. There's a little bit pretty cool provenance about that house. So it has some, besides being an old house that's in great shape, and it really is. They've taken really good care of it. If you go look down there, the Shuffleboard Clubhouse, the dimensions fit pretty well. You might have to move a tree or something, and There's a walkway through the park that's actually not lined up with the alleys anyway, but you might have to move some of that a little bit. There's been people in the community that are very interested in having this done. I think it's really a win-win situation that not only could we have a replacement for the clubhouse, which really just needs storage, but we would have a historic home on city-owned property in the heart of the historic district. And I just think that has, first off, you can probably move the house cheaper than build, well, maybe, that's just so you know, the lowest estimate to repair the clubhouse was $192,000, which just is stunning, okay? I know that one of the citizens that was contemplating moving the Pez's home a few months ago actually got an estimate to move it, and it was about $162,000. And that included putting it up on an 11-foot foundation, which we wouldn't need to do at the park. It would have a further move by a few blocks, and it also had the removal of the side room, and I think perhaps it being reattached to a different part of the house, because the house as it sits right now is too wide for the lot this citizen had. So I'd hope to think that we could get it moved for under $162,000, which I know is still a lot of money, but it's certainly cheaper than what the estimate was to repair, $192,000. So what we have at this moment, forget moving the house, we're going to have a clubhouse that's torn down, and then the staff's presentation on the demolition of the clubhouse, the path forward was after it's torn down, there would be meetings with the Shuffleboard Club, there'd be meetings with the Historic Board, there'd be meetings on zoning, trying to determine what it is that needed to be built, all right? And having not been born yesterday, I know that could take a long time. So we might not have a Shuffleboard clubhouse for, city's got a lot of priorities other than this, I would say. So I'm concerned that we'd be sitting around waiting for a while on that. The good thing about moving something like that, not only for the obvious historical aspects to it, but it's done. It's moved and it's put into place. You know, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time getting it in there. Still a lot of work to be done, a lot of work on the timing of it to be done. I believe, I hope I'm not speaking out of class here, but I believe I've also got a situation where if the site wasn't prepared in time, the house could be parked on an empty lot that's along the route, basically for free for a short period of time. So there's some ability that we could extend some of the time perhaps if we needed it. I think
Can you pay for moving it twice?
I don't know.
Or would we only pay for moving it halfway?
No, I think
And then,
we're gonna
then
Half now and then.
we're gonna do a bucket brigade and move it brick by brick, right? No, no, I don't know. I'm just saying I'm trying to look at the potential roadblocks and try to deal with them before it happens.
I haven't seen the minutes from the city council meeting. How was this presentation
Okay, thank you.
received by the council members, and what was the audience response?
Well, the audience really didn't have a response because I made my comment, my 3-minute comment. Okay, it was on that for an action item to just sign the resolution to have it demolished. So I proposed to the city, I said, look, there's this opportunity with this house that the timing is kind of dovetailed on, you know? Like I said earlier, months ago, we had talked about it, but the city didn't really have interest at that point, which is, that's okay with that. And then some citizens did. And of course, we were gonna repair the clubhouse. So it wasn't an issue anymore. We didn't need to move anything there because it was gonna get fixed. But now that we got the estimates in, that takes months for that process to occur, and the city wants to go forward and demolish it, now it's bubbled up again. And so I mentioned it to the city commission, and if you watch it, I believe they responded enthusiastically to the point that they certainly directed staff to look into that. And I got an email the next day from Camden Mills about some of the information that I had. So I know that there's things going on, and they're going to have to resolve fairly quick. And there's lots of options out there, whether, well, let me tell you this part too. According to the demolition presentation that was put on by the staff on Monday, there appeared to be two sources of funding to rebuild the clubhouse. One was the insurance, the actual insurance from that building, which I think was in the neighborhood of $110,000 or $120,000 or something like that. And then there appeared to be some other, I don't know what it was, other group of funding that they listed there, had a bunch of numbers in front of it. I don't know if it's from the state or the feds or whatever. But if you combine them together, it was about $186,000. And then the demolition cost would be about $8,000, they speculated. So doing my simple math, it was about $177,000 that's potentially available. But just because it's earmarked doesn't mean it necessarily goes to that. And the city might have other priorities. I don't know. Money's scarce. So, you naturally say, well, if the insurance was for this building, then it should go to replace the building. But I don't know if it pretty much has to. But so there might be a significant amount of money, if we say $177,000, that could perhaps cover, or probably should cover, the moving of the home. Now, there might be ancillary costs, and that includes, I think, putting on a foundation. But, there might be power hookups and things of that nature, things that would cost extra money. And we don't know the answer to that yet. But I also know there's been folks in the community that are willing to get involved, and perhaps it can be a joint kind of effort that we could move towards, So I'm really just bringing this up to put it in everyone's brain so they can think about it a little bit and know that that's out there, that there might be some, community talk about it, so you're aware of what's going on. I don't really think there's a whole much more to that other than the fact that we have to be moving quickly on it because, as Mr. Pezza says, and they want to move forward, and that's totally understandable. They've talked about donating it for, 8 months now, and so there's been plenty of time to go through those things. But so I don't know if you all have any questions about it or how it might work. I think my understanding would be that we have to get it historically designated. We'd have to get a certificate of appropriateness to have it moved. I don't think I've seen one of those yet. They're pretty rare. So it's my understanding that in reading this that it doesn't have to get upgrades for power. It's not FEMA, for power, for plumbing. According to what I've read in our ordinances, it just has to be not in a dangerous condition and no worse than it was in its original condition, which would have been, I guess, the codes from 100 years ago. So there's some things we've got to go through, but I just think it would be a
win-win.
Yeah, then the city could use it. It'd be like a nicer Warren Webster, and it could have a plaque out there talking about its history. Oh, by the way, I have to do this. Can we turn on the overhead projector? Can I do something here? So this is just so serendipitous, I think. So I'm talking to my neighbor, Mr. Moore. He gave me some information on some of the information he had on the house, which was known as the Deacon Cottage, because that was the mayor's name. You have this up?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, it is on. And so this is a photograph from about 1937 when this young guy on the right, he was the mayor, and here is a picture of him in front of the Shuffleboard Clubhouse being presented shuffleboard cues, whatever they call those, from the president of the Shuffleboard Clubhouse. So that's pretty full circle there. So that guy's house potentially replaced that structure in the back. So my understanding, I don't know, I'll try to find this out, is whether the shuffleboard club was created during that time, and the reason they're giving the mayor the cues are because in thanks of him doing that, or whether that was just some other PR piece. So.
Hey, look at those black windows.
I was thinking the two-tone shoes.
Yeah, the suit and the shoes.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yes, I think it was 1937.
Very formal.
So he clearly was living here, and the shuffleboard club was rolling. But if that's not just, karma.
That's cool.
And of course, this would be a nice picture on the wall, right?
Yep.
So is there a way just to do a blanketed, I don't even know what you would call it, but the blanketed variance or a blanketed approval for this structure to then be moved? So that way could maybe just to, speed things up a little bit, because I know obviously the homeowner's been so kind to extend X amount of months. Is there such a thing as that?
You could probably hear
Multiple things at once.
multiple things at once, but they would,
Historic designation, application to move.
right.
Maybe just list off?
No, so I've talked to Brandon about this a while ago. I know we can do a historic designation, which is a requirement, but it can be done boom, boom, one run after the other, and then the moving permit. I think this is how I would read it, that you have to have a plan, I guess a foundation plan engineered before we can issue the certificate to move. So there would have to be somebody that gets involved and puts together, is the house going to be on 3 feet or 4 feet or whatever, And I think some people are looking into trying to find somebody. It's not like drawing up a house. It's just it's a relatively simple thing, and I don't know how costly that would be, but that would have to be in place before it could be moved. But then I think once the home is moved, that doesn't mean it's ready to be occupied. There's a lot of other things that would have to happen at that point, but that would solve the problem of moving it before it got demolished.
I want to note that the city commission will need to vote on whether they want
yes.
this to happen. And before anybody gets too far down the road on making this happen, I think it should go before the city commission.
That was more so my question.
Yeah, there's
Was more for the commission.
Right, but I would say two things have happened along those lines. Is I think the city commission is aware of the time frame. I don't know when they next meet, but in a couple weeks, I would hope. I don't know at the end of the meeting whether they asked to get information for the next meeting or not, but I'm going to hope to think that they did. There's no question the city commissioners would have to be behind it, but I think at this point I would, I'm thinking if the city commission is going to vote on something like this, they're going to want some community input, and that we should go ahead and get that rolling now.
That was more my question, is there a way that we could put something together to present to the commission for them just to give a blanketed, okay, we're good with this move, kind of stamp of approval? I'm sure there's going to be ADA compliance or things such as that, unless maybe there's not because it's a historic structure going into another historic.
And again, we'd have to look into that, and I think that's part of what Public Services is looking into, as well as probably our building department. If there is considered a change of use from residential to commercial, what requirements they would have to do, costs for the movement. It has come down from the city manager to look at these things, to get cost estimates in order to provide that to the city commission. So we are working diligently on our end to kind of give an overall view of what we feel would be required from that standpoint. And part of that would be the local historic designation, all the moving parts and components to have that overview, that skeleton, and if we can fill in how much something's going to be so they have as much information we can present to make an informed decision.
I know you guys have a lot on your plates and you're doing a lot of amazing work. I mean, would it be feasible to possibly have it in front of the commission in December?
I know we have at least some preliminary results that we can share. It might not be, very extremely extensive. I will say our meetings in December are back-to-back, like the 3rd and the 9th, because of the holidays. So
It would just be great to be able to have some sort of a definitive from commission.
Well,
The third would be before our next meeting. The
I'm
ninth
trying to
obviously
think.
would be after.
I mean, all my dates, because I've got Board of Adjustment, TRC.
And then this November, they have 2 meetings upcoming, but the November 11th is moved, I would think, because that's Veterans Day.
So we have already had our November 3rd. We are not having we do not have an additional commission meeting in November. We've already had our meeting in November for commission. And then going into December, we have December 2nd, my apologies, and December 9th for commission.
So the 2nd would be before us.
Yeah, but nothing between now and then.
No.
well, I would just, I think we're going to get,
I just don't want to hold him up.
of course not.
Right.
And-
We want to try and make this happen without delaying your
and-
life.
Absolutely, and that's,
And the 30-day stay, does that start today? That-
yes.
When we voted on it? So it's,
Correct.
So I'm hopeful there'll be communication. I think there will be. I know Commissioner Maldonado is behind this as far as, it's his district, okay? So I'm hopeful there'll be communications about what's happening. And if push came to shove and something happened where we needed to make some sort of a decision, I mean, I think this would be worthy of having a special meeting just for that purpose, if that helps down the line. But really the purpose is this just to make everybody aware of what's going on, okay? And getting more information perhaps in the next couple of weeks, which could be disseminated to you folks, not through me, but through the staff or through emails and things of that nature. So,
Is this information that you want, is this to help guide a decision for a recommendation that you would make to the city commission, or?
yes.
Okay. Because that would really be what you could do is,
Yeah.
move to put your support behind this.
Yeah, I think ultimately, but so much of this information has to come from the staff for us to be able to put it as a presentation of some sorts to the city commission. The staff could do it themselves to the city commission, but you're right, as far as steps, I think there would have to be some sort of interim meeting with us where we would decide what we want to do and how we'd go about it,
Or
so.
we could each individually email staff and say, our support behind moving, not in a group message, I know.
No, well, I mean, I suppose we could set it for an action item for next meeting. We might as well do that.
Yes, if you're going to issue a recommendation as a body to the city commission, it would need to happen at a meeting.
Yeah, well, of course. So, as I said, I just want people to think about it at this stage. So, why don't we put it on the calendar as an action item, and then we'll know more information by that time, whether we can actually, do something with it,
Or would we be able to make that recommendation and request from today's meeting? Say, we're in support of trying to make this.
Absolutely.
And that way
if-
they have that information.
if everybody is in
for our
agreement.
next board meeting.
Yes.
So does it make a difference that we can make a motion now on a discussion item? That's fine for us to do that? Doesn't have to be an action item? I mean, I'd be happy to do that, but.
Is it a motion or just a recommendation?
It's a recommendation,
Okay.
and it doesn't,
in support of,
yes, you can, because you can
Where
leave the
time is of
demolition
the
on the
essence.
agenda already. And
And part of the demolition package in the staff report included the possibility of movement, did it not?
Did talk about it.
Yeah, that we have met with, I personally have met with other residents, for what would be included in trying to move it, and would it fit on their lot? I mean, there's certain things when you're looking at an individual parcel. Would it fit? Does it meet the coverage? Is there other things that they may want to look to do on the property further down the road? Yes, we're saving a structure, but does it fit their view of what they're looking to do? So there's multiple, factors and any.
And I want to thank you for that too, because I didn't really say that or think about it. I know that some of the citizens have met with staff, and you've put in time and effort into some things in which did not come to fruition. So I really do appreciate that. And that's why I think to me, it's like Mr. Pez has said, originally that's really where they wanted it to be part of the city but that didn't seem to be what was going to happen back then for reasons I've said. So now it's just, we're at a different time where things, timing seems better, but it's going to have to be quick. So are you going back to your saying that we could do a recommendation from this right now?
Yeah, and it could be by motion or consensus.
Okay.
Just as a body, whether you support this.
All right, well, let's talk about it as a motion, but how would we want to phrase it? How do you think we should call it? Just that we, because it's a matter of encouraging the city council to...
We're supporting the effort, supporting the idea, but time is of the
Just like when
essence.
staff makes a recommendation to us for approval of something under these conditions.
I know, I'm just
then
talking
we
about the language. Are we just saying that we are we're making a motion that the 103 24th Avenue be historically designated and be subject to, and also a certificate of appropriateness for moving?
I wouldn't make a recommendation on those because those could come before you afterwards,
All right,
and
that's
those
fine.
should be on the agenda.
heard.
So we're just basically making a motion in support of the moving of the residents at 103 24th to the shuffleboard.
Or you're
location.
in support or of,
Make a recommendation for a commission to consider the relocation of the property located at blah, blah, blah to.
Of a historical property,
Did you get that?
as opposed to a demolition.
Four Jennies over there.
Let's see what she comes up with.
backspace.
Yeah.
So the board is recommending that the city commission consider the relocation of the historic building located at and the address.
103 24th Avenue to the location of the shuffleboard clubhouse in Pasadena Park, which actually has an address, but I can't think of what it is. It's something 9th. Do you know what it is?
no.
Can we, should we say something in there
901 10th Avenue.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that.
It's something.
that we have about the stay of demolition? So it gets the idea across that this time is of the essence?
Well, I don't think we have to say that in this, because I think they know that, and staff certainly knows it, and it was brought up before, and I think everyone's got their instructions on
And if it could include that there's an application submitted for local historic designation of the structure, and at some point, an application for a certificate of appropriateness to
Well,
move the historic structure.
But see, the way this would work is the city essentially would be doing would be asking for those certificates.
And that
Historic designation.
And that in part is why I asked for future or information on the local historic designation, because it wouldn't necessarily be the Pez's that are requesting that. It would be the city. So that would be part of, they are no longer the applicant. A new application would be filed, so I'd want to close out the other one if it's no longer under consideration or
Right.
on the table.
But by the same, not to get too crazy here, if they have to withdraw it and the city has to do a new one, then do we have to wait 30 days to get it in front of the board?
So can that be part of the suggestion to the city commission?
Well,
For
I'm
them
just
just
saying,
to approve it? I mean-
I would just say that the Pez, if they had it historically designated right now, the city wouldn't have to do it later.
Right.
So I would just say leave it as it is at the moment, because what's going to happen is it's going to be and this is something I've talked to the city attorney about, that he's looking into. It may be a situation where before a lot of this stuff can happen, there has to be some sort of a quitclaim deed for the house.
They may not pay to move something that they don't own.
Yeah, so there's a lot of,
There's a lot of-
things to do.
yes.
I'm just making people aware of what's going on. So I think from what Madam Clerk has written down, that we can advise, make a recommendation to the commission, that's kind of all we can do today, maybe. Assuming is that a unanimous belief that's what we want to do?
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, yes.
And the shuffleboard court location is 900 Passagrill Way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And who's moving and who's seconding?
Okay, and you may jump up somebody.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Member Daschle?
Yes.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Huckensmith?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all for putting up with all that. All right, now we're at 5D, which, Ms. Hockensmith, you had an update?
Yes, Gulf Beach's Historic Museum, in all of its splendor, will be hosting the Light Up the Museum ceremony at sunset on Sunday, December 7th. Have refreshments in the courtyard there. So please join.
Did it
Thank
rain
you.
last year? Was it rainy last year?
No, it didn't rain
It was
last
so, it was
snowed.
so great.
Okay, 5E, a public service
I think it
update.
did rain the year before.
Publicly owned
What
property.
was the time on that again, please?
Sunset, so I think like 4:30.
Okay. Thank you.
They are, aren't they? Feel free to stop by on any given Monday to pull some weeds, too.
Every Monday morning they get volunteers. My wife and I are
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, Kristen, do you have some public service updates?
Yes, as informational items, 6A, included in the agenda package, there was the early draft of the front content of the design guidebook. So just kindly take a look at that. If you have any comments, recommendations, or suggestions, bring them forward to our December meeting. We will have a discussion on that. Also, if you haven't done so already, please do submit some photos of your preferred historic structures or newly constructed buildings for inclusion into the design guidebook. And if you do happen to have street addresses, that would be great, but it is a game staff plays of name that house. So that we could do a flashcard and turn it over and see who wins. The other item I had for a standing item, update on city-owned resources. I know Chair Lowry has commented on that. The City Commission on Monday's meeting did approve for the demolition of the shuffleboard court. 6C, updates from Public Services, and speaking with Camden, the Director of Public Services, you may have noticed some bricks had come out of 8th Avenue. They are fully aware of that. They are working on city staff replacing those bricks back in, so that's trying to get scheduled.
Can I, thank you. And on the design guidebook, I can understand we don't really need to talk about that today, especially, or in any detail, because it's on, you've put it on for next month's calendar. But, I look through that, and I just want to say, forget maybe some of the stuff I did in the beginning, but whoever put the rest of it together, was an excellent job. Can I say thank you to you, or did I say it to somebody else? I thought it was really, really well done. But there's a couple things that I just want to mention so we can maybe talk about next month is, can I do this on the developmental history? In that paragraph, as you go, it's kind of near the bottom of page 2, talks about prevailing architectural styles of the era, including Craftsman Bungalow, Mediterranean Revival, and a handful of colonial. Well, we don't have Mediterranean Revival as a subset later on, and I think we probably should. Okay, you do mention at the very end that there's other things such as Mediterranean Revival, but there's enough nice houses there that I think we probably should. And then, so is the idea that we would have in those subsets where we're talking about the different styles, we go ahead and have photographs of those examples at that point. I mean, that would make sense.
That is the idea that we have, yes.
So as you said, for the people who want to contribute photographs or whatever, those are kind of the areas we're looking for examples of, right? Okay. Now, the other thing, and I talked to Brandon about this before at some of the meetings we talked about this, at the end of this, again, which I'm going to say I think was really, really well done, at one point we had talked about having some separate sections that have photographs or some written words, because I don't know how to say, some description of historic homes that have had additions to them. Okay, because I think it's important that when someone looks at a guidebook, and if they, are buying a historic house, they know they can also put additions on them, and here's a couple of examples of some good homes that have that. Also, and we don't have to do this, but there have been some successful homes that have been moved on Paso Grill, historic homes. We might want to have a couple pictures of those so people know that they can actually, move these things. And then even more importantly, maybe when we talked about this, having a set of photographs of new structures that fit the architectural aesthetic that we like. Okay?
Understood, and that could all be part of when you guys are out there.
Exactly. So that's what I'm just saying.
Tell us the story behind it.
Okay.
If you have dates, if you have
Addresses.
when it was done,
Yep.
especially if it's additions, if you have even prior, I mean, we can look back on Google
Yep.
Streets if we have them or in our records, but any help that you can help us develop this would be fantastic.
Okay, but again, I'm gonna say,
Welcome that.
I have my red pen out, I didn't even do anything, so.
That's okay. Save it for next. Save that, or you can email it to us prior to the
I think
Really
his
good.
red pen might be over there in
Yeah.
that collection.
you know, just knock that down. Just knock that down. Okay.
So I have a
Okay.
question. The photos that we're submitting, is there, someone at some point going to send out a professional photographer to take photos of those things? Or are we expect to do our best and they're
I would try your best,
Okay.
but if there are certain angles or certain, other elements as we go through this process, maybe close-ups on things. I don't know how.
Do we need to have Brandon in there for scale?
Yeah, he has to be in every picture, right, yeah.
I have done that to him while we've been posting some pictures and then added it into the city manager's weekly report. So that has been part of the fun as well. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, that was really good. Okay, anything else we need to discuss? Okay, adjourn. Thank you all.
Good talk.